one funny story I remember from the Jackson store was it was a summer holiday, whether it was Memorial Day or Fourth of July. I can't really remember what it was. And you remember, I stated before that there's only two things that you control in a supermarket or in any retail business, and that's the payroll and supplies. Now, they were on a big payroll kick because the company on a whole was spending too much payroll and sales were down. The ad programs weren't quite as good as they could have been, and other competition was starting to take away some of the sales from a lot of our stores. So there was a big payroll crunch, and you had to meet your payroll, and if you didn't meet your payroll, then you had to get your schedules and bring your schedules up on your day off the following week or that week to have the supervisors go over your schedules. So you had to drive up to Elizabeth from wherever you were, or drive to Elizabeth, which is where the main office was. You take your schedules, and have them looked at, and everybody would adjust your schedules for you, since obviously we weren't capable of doing that ourselves, or so they said. And those were some low points in time in the company, because everything always balances out. You have some good weeks, you have some bad weeks, and you make up for it. And the company always made money. May not have made as much as some people wanted to, but everybody has wants. That's part of the nature of the beast. So I was always kind of like a little bit of a jokester, and the DM, although we got along, sometimes he didn't like my attitude, which I find out through different portions of my career that a lot of people didn't like my attitude. But I still prided myself in doing the best job that I could. But if I could also have fun, then I would have fun. So I had a mannequin head. I don't even remember. It must have been from some kind of display that we had built. So I took this mannequin head and I had it on a candy jar in my office. And I had a sweet tooth. That's probably why I have next to no teeth left. It's a good thing I live in Tennessee now. It's a perfect spot for not having teeth, right? But so I had a candy jar sitting on top of the file cabinet in my office, and I had this mannequin head sitting on top of it, and I ran a rope up to the ceiling and down through over the ceiling bar and back down to the mannequin things, and I put a noose around the mannequin's head, and I had a little cord, and like I was playing hangman, I would put the score, and when you got to the end, if you didn't get it, you got all your letters, you were hung and you lost the game. So this DM who lived, close to us, he came in and, to do his little store walk, and it was a holiday, and he wasn't in a good mood. And he came upstairs and he saw my hangman and he says, "What is that?" And I said, "Well, that's when I missed my payroll. I put my little marks down, and I know that I'm going to get punished for it." And he didn't like my joke, and he knocked it over and knocked it onto the floor and broke my candy dish and took his little temper tantrum. And I just thought that was really funny that somebody would, and that was his way of saying, "You don't joke around about things that I think are important." I said, "Well, I joke around about a lot of different things, and whether it's important or not, life is a joke, you got to have a good time. You can't always walk around eating Tums and thinking that always the worst. You can't think that way, But it turned out that he was there also to check and see how much product I had, because one of the company's superstars didn't have the sale soda that they needed to get through the day, and I had Teddy, and Teddy always had plenty. So, we were like a little warehouse. So he was there to ask me if I could spare some soda, and I said sure. And during the holidays, you know, stores would run late a product, and one of the good things that they did is that they would put somebody on that knew how to drive a truck, and they would rent a U-Haul, and they would pick up stuff from stores, or if they had to go to the warehouse, if they would get the warehouse to open up for them to pick up some product, that they, you know, they could do that and transfer it to the stores that needed it, because obviously if I've got it and somebody else needs it and I can spare it, then I'll spare it, because that keeps us all in business and helps the company, which is, we're all team players, and that's what we're supposed to do. So here, the guy that broke my candy jar and knocked the head off the thing because he didn't like my attitude was also there asking me if I could spare merchandise to take it to another store, and he was going to have one of the guys pick it up and rented a U-Haul, and the guy came down, loaded up the truck and everything, and went and delivered the stuff, and it was funny because he was driving the truck, but he wasn't paying attention too much, and he decided he was hungry, and from what I understand, he just tried to take the U-Haul truck through the drive-through at a McDonald's. That didn't work out too well for the McDonald's building, because the truck was a little bit bigger than what the drive-through could take. So I don't know, maybe the money that we save on payroll, you know, ended up having to go pay for, you know, the damage done to the truck or the building, or the insurance to cover it. Who knows? It's just a small fry in a big ocean. But it was funny, you know, that people would think like that. He ended up though leaving, and when the company was sold, he didn't stick with them either, and he ended up buying a couple of Manhattan bagels, and I understand he's doing quite well for himself with the money that they gave him. So it all worked out in the end for him.